Hi, Mel Kiley from CreateConsulting here. I am so thrilled to introduce Eilat Aviram to you. Eilat is an internationally sought-after clinical psychologist, best-selling author, speaker, and energy healing teacher. She speaks on stages and works with individuals, organizations, and healthcare professionals around the world, passionately teaching her simple yet powerful Allow You method to help people love themselves more in the choices they make. When I first met Eilat, I was immediately drawn to her and her work. She's the author of 2 best-selling books. Her first book, If You Loved Yourself, What Would You Do Now? And her second book, You Have Permission to Exist, are both available in paperback, Kindle, and on Audible. And I've had the pleasure of reading and loving both books. Eilat, welcome. It is such a privilege to spend time with you. Thank you so much for joining me. Please share the essence of your work and how you're helping people learn to love themselves more.
I think having worked with people in so many different contexts for, we just said 27 years, I have really seen that there is something we do again and again and again that seems to be the number one cause of just about everything that we struggle with. It trips us up so much, and it affects our work, and it affects our family, it affects our health, our body, our love life, everything. And it's just one little thing. And that thing is that we do not listen to ourselves. I want to talk in response to that just very briefly about the moment of choice, that moment when we're facing, who do I put first? What do I say yes to? Do I look after my child now? Do I do my work project? Or what do I do now? In every moment, you've heard me say this before, but it's in every moment that we face, right in the center of that moment, there is a sacred moment, right? And there's the moment of power. And in that moment, we either turn towards what we know we feel like doing, what we know will be right for us, what feels true to us in that moment, or we turn away from it. And when we turn towards the thing that is our inner yes feeling, life feels good, and it tends to flow in a very nourishing way. So things feel okay. You'll know which task feels rightest to you to do. You'll still have energy for the tasks afterwards, because as we said just now, you are deeply listening to yourself. So you ask yourself what you need, you get that sense, and you go ahead and you do it. And it feels like things are okay, things are on track. When we turn away from what we know is the thing that we would like to do now, or that feels rightest to us, we go, oh, no, I can't do that. What will people think? That's not the right thing. They'll think I'm selfish, or it doesn't make logical sense. I should do this first, not that thing, even though that's the thing I really do feel like doing first. When we turn away from what feels rightest to us, we start to have to use our mind to motivate ourselves. We have to push. We need willpower. Life starts to get heavy and hard, and it's not exciting. It's not satisfying. So what I want to say in answer to your question is that at the very core of each one of us is this deep, beautiful knowing. There's a real wisdom at the core of each one of us. And that wisdom is guiding us to which thing is right for us in this moment. When you need to attend to your child and your work and your health and your partner, and there's some money thing going on, in the moment that you face any choice, just pause and ask yourself, if I loved myself, what would I choose to do
now? I'm reminded of something you shared with me, Eilat, around the gaze. And so that has stayed with me. And I've thought about it in relation to you have permission to exist. You exist as a result of that gaze. And so you'll recall the conversation we were having was around creating a thinking environment, and the work that we do at Create Consulting, where we invite leaders, team members, organizations to give each other generative, focused, supportive attention. And you shared your insight from a psychology perspective around the gaze. So please talk to that, Eilat. What has, since our conversation, has anything further emerged around that awareness?
Yeah, and just so that people can catch up with us, the idea in psychology being that when you are a baby, you have no consciousness of anything, really. You're sort of just a being presence. And when your mother, for example, is holding you in her arms and she gazes upon you, her gaze is the thing that you see as validating your existence. It's kind of like, I'm just being, and then you look at me and I exist. But until you look at me, I don't exist. And funnily enough, that's actually a quantum physics thing as well, right? Like nothing exists until the observer puts their attention on it and suddenly it exists. So it's the same thing for the gaze with a child. And many of us got disapproving gazes or whatever our gazes, but we go around for the rest of our lives in a funny sort of way, seeking the gaze of others. And usually we're seeking the approving gaze or the respectful gaze or whatever it may be. And in our conversation, as you were saying that you create these beautiful environments with people, I said, give each other the gaze, the affirming, holding, loving, compassionate gaze where the other person can suddenly say, oh, I exist and it's okay. It's just such a beautiful and healing thing to be looked at compassionately. Like, oh, maybe I am okay after all. And then we were speaking about how my work is very strongly around learning how to provide ourselves with that gaze, how to look at ourselves lovingly, with acceptance, with kindness, with tolerance. One of the things I often ask people is, what is the kindest thing you could say to yourself right now? You know, if you loved yourself, what would you say to yourself right now? How would you encourage yourself? So since we've spoken, I actually did think about it, and I've thought about that thing of turning your love inwards. You know, I'm sending love outwards and I send love inwards to me as well. I see you and I see me too. It's an extremely powerful thing because, yeah, it's turning the gaze inwards. I think that's a big reason that the second book came out, You Have Permission to Exist. Because it's something that I found myself saying a lot in my workshops when people were saying, oh, I really want to do this, but I can't. It's, you know, it's not allowed, or it would be awkward, or I'm scared I'd fail. What if it's the wrong thing? I'll make a fool of myself. People will say I'm selfish. I can't just change jobs or leave this thing. And I found myself repeating, but you have permission to exist. And then one day, one of the participants in one of the workshops said, oh, it gets to me every time you say that. And so that stayed with me. I thought, what is that blocks us from feeling like we have the right to just be us? You know, you have the right to like what you like, to prefer what you prefer, to express yourself in the way that you feel the need to express yourself. You're so unique. Each one of us is completely unique. So any one of us who shuts our mouth and keeps quiet and does not allow our expression is kind of robbing the collective of whatever unique skill, gift, shine you bring.
There is this mindset of, if I just put my head down and work really hard, somebody's going to come along and notice and support me or promote me or acknowledge me or affirm me. And it's a little bit of that waiting for that prince to come along with the glass slipper for me to then turn into this princess. And so that I'm hoping that my work is going to be proof enough of my value and my contribution. And so the awareness of how important it is to be able to be your own voice and spokesperson, and turn the volume up in terms of who you are and what you offer, because there isn't necessarily a prince waiting to come and present you with a glass slipper.
No, and I wanted to ask it as a question, like if you're sitting with that thing, and you know, I recognize it in myself when you say it now. I'm like, oh, I know that in me. Yeah, I've definitely done that. And I remember somebody at a workshop once saying to us, to the group, and we've all sort of, she said, no one is coming to rescue you. And it was so stark. We all just sat there kind of, but in response to it, I want to sort of put it into a question, because that, of course, then stirs all these things. If no one is coming to rescue you, what would you like to do? If you are Prince Charming.
Yeah. You are Prince Charming, you're the glass slipper, you're
Exactly.
Cinderella.
You're the knight on the white horse, you're the whole shebang. I remember an interview once with Cher, you know, the singer Cher, and she was telling how her mother for many years had said to her, and she's got this like Brooklyn or wherever she's from, she says her mom always used to say to her, Cher, you have to find a rich, successful man. You have to marry a rich, successful man. And she said, and one day I turned to her and I said, Ma, I am a rich, successful man.
I love that.
And this is the thing, you know, how are you going to rescue yourself? And you don't actually need rescuing. You need to be heard. You need to be attended to like the princess that you are. So start doing it.
Oh, I love that. And that nothing is going to change. So that sense of, if I'm not happy with my circumstances, if I'm not feeling alignment, I'm feeling frustrated, I'm feeling angry, I'm feeling resentful, or whatever it might be, that nothing is going to change until you change it. So it might be finding your voice and expressing your need, but it starts with you becoming very clear on that's what I've learned from you, Eilat, is becoming clear on what do I need? What do I need? What do I need?
That's a big part of my books, and it's a big part of my workshops, as you know. It's like learning, what are my needs? How do I even know? And what do I do with them once I realize that they're there? Because it is the core. It is how we love ourselves, is to attend to our needs. It's a wonderful thing once you start realizing that it's a very small and simple thing. Many times people are very afraid to ask the love question, because they say, oh, I can't say, if I love myself, what would I do now? I would leave my job, I'd leave my marriage, I'd change my whole life. I can't do that. So this is a stupid question. It's almost never a big dramatic thing that you need to do. It's often a very small little thing. So for example, if you're in a workplace where you feel unheard and disrespected, you have a need to be heard and you have a need to be respected, right? That's the opposite of those two very unpleasant experiences. So how can you begin to respect yourself differently? Because people treat you the way you train them to treat you. You get what you accommodate, what you tolerate.
Yes.
So if you know that you get what you tolerate, then the task isn't to stand up and go, no more of this. It can be small, subtle things like, please, will you let me finish what I'm saying first before you start to speak? I mean, that can take a whole lot of courage to do. But when you're frustrated enough, you can do that. It's about respecting your own idea. Even if nobody listened, nobody heard it, nobody took it seriously, to go, well, I know that that was a good idea. The office politics may be what they are, but I know, I respect my idea. I'm not going to poo-poo my idea just because they did. You know, so it sort of becomes, it begins with an inner dialogue. It really does. And that inner dialogue is you holding your own hand. When someone's got your hand, it makes things easier.
Yeah.
It's small little changes. Don't be afraid of the big changes, because they are made up of tiny, tiny little steps.
Thank you for the gift of the amazing work that you've done. If you loved yourself, what would you do now? And you have permission to exist. It is profound, it is powerful, it is life-changing. And so thank you so much, Eilat, for your time and what you've shared, the wisdom you've shared with me today. Thank you.
Thank you for your beautiful work as well. And thank you so much for inviting me. It was very special to be here.